Once again, you're joining us right as Jake has quit the podcast, so it's just me and Peyton here now. What do we do?
Yeah, dude, I mean, that's hilarious. That's the first time I was like, that was so funny. When he scoots up to the banana tank, like, give me Joe.
No, I didn't.
Joe! I didn't mean
yell my name at me.
That was so funny. Okay. Do this one for a second,
Yeah.
Since we... Yo!
It was a terrible clap.
Wow.
There we go. Hello. Welcome to This Podcast Is Not For You. My name is Wes.
My name is Jake.
My name is Rooftop Debacle.
Wow. How you doing, Rooftop?
Debacled.
Well, maybe we can help you with your debacle. I see you're drinking Monday. How is it?
I see you're drinking 2%, 1%. It's great. There's a lot of it in there. I think I went a little overboard on the gin this time.
Yeah.
But it's still good.
For those of you that don't know, we're talking about Monday, our sponsor. Go to drinkmonday.co. Is that correct, Jacob?
It is.
Zero alcohol whiskey and spirits. We are drinking their zero alcohol gin today. If you go to their website, you can use our code NOTFORYOU10 to get 10% off your order.
Which 10% is significant.
Yeah.
For their product, 10% is significant.
It's a high quality product. And we're drinking out of our mugs, which you know you can get on our Patreon site, as well as our t-shirts that you've only seen in one episode.
And most recently added to that is the album Verses on
Yes.
vinyl.
Our verses is on Patreon as well.
That's
Yeah.
correct.
Today, we are talking about Halo Infinite.
Yes, we are.
Halo is a video game franchise, for those of you that don't know. Jacob, you're a big fan of Halo. You actually wrote this episode. I am hosting in order to allow Jake to talk a bit more freely about the episode, or about the subject matter, because he has had more time playing it than I have. So, real quick, this isn't on the outline, briefly talk about your history with the franchise of Halo. Jacob.
I think it changed my life. Played it. I saw my friend playing it at a Super Bowl party at church, the original Halo on an Xbox.
Wow.
And I was like, what is this? Mind blowing. Played it. I was like, I have to play this.
Had you play a shooter before that?
No. I was like, I have to play this game, like whenever I want. Fast forward to today, the consumers are
Super
well
smart.
educated and super smart. Yeah, so I have always been a Halo guy in terms of like shooters that I've been playing predominantly. I think Halo 2 is one of my favorite eras of video gaming. The introduction of Xbox Live multiplayer and Xbox Live as a service and the first big blockbuster game.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've always been a big Halo fan.
It's one of the first games I remember to have a big like culture around it too. Like the people playing Halo were together in something.
Fans of it together instead of just like
Part
this
of that
game's
is
good.
how you had to play it too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think it's always got a special place in my heart.
Mm-hmm.
I think if Bungie was still doing it, I think it would be better.
For those of you that don't know, after Halo Reach, correct?
I think so.
Bungie left the franchise and made Destiny instead, and 343 Industries took over making Halo 4.
All things Halo.
Yeah, Halo 4, 5, and now Halo Infinite.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think the Master Chief character is a very cool character. I think, I like the story, the whole like freaking bad A that's just like this whole base is overflooded with Covenant. I'll handle it.
He's the Clint Eastwood style, like manly man.
Yeah.
But doesn't need deep emotions to be cool. You know what I mean? He's just like he's gonna handle it.
Yeah.
You know.
So
He is that character. I mean, he's the John Wayne or Clint Eastwood of video games.
He's the man with no name, essentially, from The Good, the Bad, the Ugly. Like, he's just cool, calm, collected, and always gets through it kind of thing.
What's your history with Halo?
I started playing Halo 2 era. So I retroactively played Halo Combat Evolved, but it was started with Halo 2, which I believe came out when I was in junior high.
I was in 7th grade.
Yeah, so I would have been in 5th grade, actually. So I didn't own an Xbox, so that was part of the barrier for us, is we had PlayStation, PlayStation 1 and 2, so when
we didn't
the
get a
original
360
Xbox,
till high school, I don't think.
correct.
Right?
But I did have friends that had Xboxes, so I would go over to Nathan's house, and we would play. One thing that I remember vividly about playing Halo is we would camp out outside. This is the first time I had ever done something like this, and this was like, I think you can do this so easily now. But we would run extension cords. Like, we'd have like 15 extension cords running out to his backyard where we would put a tent up, and we'd have a small TV and his Xbox, and we would split screen Halo 2 for, we played all night. I don't know why we camped out, because we didn't sleep out there. It was just playing Halo.
I didn't know you did that. That's awesome.
So there's a lot of really, and again, similar to you, it was definitely the first multiplayer shooter I played, for sure. I think I had more time in Call of Duty at the time, more time on
Medal of Honor,
Ghost Recon, that kind of thing was more in I was playing that more. But when I would play with people, it was always Halo.
Right.
So, and the LAN parties are still the best memories of playing video games I've ever had.
Yeah.
The Halo LAN parties were like, it was some, and I get bummed out, honestly, because we haven't really been able to capture that again. And I think part of that is, you're a kid at that time, so everything is that way. But there's something about system linking that's different than like just playing with your buddies. We've, in-person sweat sessions, stuff like that. But just a really special time in video gaming, I think.
Yeah.
And that's all original Halo stuff, though. That's not, this one. But that's the history.
For me, I came even later than that. Whenever I started playing Halo, Reach was new. And I didn't really start playing until I met Alex Moore and Jay Brown, and they were really into Halo, and I had never really played it at all because of what Peyton had said. We didn't have an Xbox until later. And so I started playing with those guys whenever I'd go to their house, and someone would have a birthday party, and we would play. And I have always sucked at Halo for the most part. Just something about it's always been harder for me to get a handle on, more so than other games, except for playing a specific mode, SWAT. I can play that decently well. I think some of it's because I grew up playing other shooters more, so coming to that one late, it's just like harder for me to get all the little minutia of it. I've always loved it and had a blast playing it, but I came to it much later, and I've actually never played any of the campaigns. I played the first mission of this new game just to give it a test, and then kind of haven't been able to come back to it. But I've never played any of the Halo campaigns like all the way through. I've played individual missions here and there.
Right.
But so I have no idea what the story is, really. With the exception of knowing who Master Chief is and Cortana and all of that stuff. The general broad strokes I know just from culture. But yeah, so I'm much more of a Halo, like, I know it. It's not near and dear to my heart as it is for other people like yourself or whatever. I do have very fond memories of playing it with friends, though. And I think I would have those fond memories regardless of what the game was, though, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I have fond memories of playing Call of Duty 2 with Alex and Jay and them. So, but it's obviously a seminal game in video game history.
Yeah.
And now there is Halo Infinite.
Yes, there is.
Release was originally planned for November of 2020. There was a I can't remember whether it was E3 or a Microsoft.
It was
E3.
Yep.
Yeah.
Where there was a little demo of it, and it was very poorly received.
A campaign demo, yeah.
Yeah. Very famously, the brute face was screen grabbed and memed, and it looked not great. It looked very dated. It didn't look finished, also. That's another thing. It didn't look polished.
Which, yes. If it was the E3 before it was supposed to come out, that's a problem. But if it's like, hey, this game's coming out in a couple years, cool.
Yeah.
But it was like...
It's coming out this year.
4 or 5 months till release, and people were like, this is
it?
not good.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And so it was delayed kind of indefinitely without much of a date stamped. But then the multiplayer surprise launch this past year on November 15th, 2021, which is the 20th anniversary of Halo. Is that correct?
Halo
Jake?
and the Xbox, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because Halo is a Microsoft-owned franchise. It's probably their biggest one. I know they've bought some other companies recently, but I believe it's always been Microsoft, right?
It's always been Microsoft.
Bungie was a part of Microsoft originally.
Yeah.
So, and then the campaign launched on December 8th, 2021. We'll get into more details about those in particular and how we feel about it. But we have a special guest on this episode. We've talked with him before on his podcast, TheWannabeCritic. His name is Gabe, and we're going to give him a call and going to talk about the multiplayer aspects of Halo Infinite specifically with him. So we're going to give Gabe a call.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, man.
How's it going?
Good. How are
Hello.
you?
I'm doing well. I literally just made the cut. I'm not even kidding you. Literally right as you were calling, I clap synced.
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
literally.
That's great.
That's the magic
So,
right there.
Yeah.
It is so
I know.
great
Here we go.
to see you here, video chatting with you right now. It is so great to see you, man. How are you?
Yeah. I'm doing really good. How are you doing, Jake?
Better now.
Good. I was kind of thinking, I was like, oh man, this is ringing for a while. For a split second, I thought that, you may not. Yeah, I was wondering, I was like, man, I wonder if they're like sweating it right now, if I'm actually going to pick up the phone.
We were
So we all got nervous.
a lot of dead air.
Here I am.
We
Here I
were
am.
talking the whole time. Don't you worry about it.
So Gabe, Wes is just going to talk to us about the multiplayer experience of Halo Infinite. So we just figured we'd call someone else that is a big Halo fan
Yeah.
and talk, especially because multiplayer is so, communal.
Yeah.
It's like, let's call someone else and see what they have to say. So thank you for being on, and I'm excited to hear your thoughts.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited. I'm always excited to give my thoughts. So,
Sure.
you know.
Aren't we all? That's why we have That's why we have our podcast.
That's right.
Exactly, because you can say whatever you want and no one gets mad at you. So
Exactly.
Until after, and then
And
you
if
don't
they
even
do,
know.
you don't even know.
Exactly.
yeah,
So we're just going to go through a couple points on here. We're going to start off with the big thing, I think, or one of the major things about Halo Infinite's multiplayer is it adopted a free-to-play model, which is very popular now amongst multiplayer games. So let's start with you, Gabe. What are your general thoughts on Halo going free-to-play?
at first, I thought it was a really, really good idea. I think a lot of us in the community kind of felt the same way. It's like, oh, this is super accessible, whether or not you have, whether you have Game Pass or not, like you could still play Halo multiplayer. Mm-hmm. So at first I thought it was a great idea generally. Do you want me to say kind of now what my thoughts are?
Sure, yeah.
I think it's given 343 an excuse to be lazy, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
And I think it's held the game back the game is good. You know, the multiplayer is good. It feels good, and it's awesome. Like, I think a lot of people would jump in and have a good time, right? Mm-hmm. But in the same vein, I think that question of like, oh, you know, you got to buy an Xbox so we can play Halo together, right? Mm-hmm. Like,
yep.
Those days really feel over because you have games like Splitgate and Warzone where you can play on any platform and connect with relative ease.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like what really sets Halo apart at this point other than just being Halo? And so I think it's kind of a double-edged sword, you know, in a lot of ways, but I think it could be amazing if they would make it feel like Halo, you know.
Yeah, I think the thing is it is free to play, and so my fiance was like, "Oh, I've played on your account a couple times. That would be really fun." And I was like, "Yeah, it sucks. You have to have Xbox Live, and you can pay for your own account if you want, but other than that, you have to play on my Xbox." And you know, and then one day she was just playing on her own account, and I was like, "That's not possible." And I was like, "Oh yeah, it's technically free. Anyone can create a free Xbox Live Silver account, you know, and they can play Halo." And yeah, I think that the accessibility is a great idea. Yeah. But I think especially when we start talking about it as a live service, I definitely agree with you that there's a lot to be desired there. Yeah.
Well, and you're right in the sense of like 343 being kind of put into a, you know, holding themselves back almost, because games now I think that come out, they have to like evolve a little bit, whereas a game in 2002 was like, that was it. You get the game and that's going to be it forever. But you can update games now really easily and like new maps and all this stuff. And I feel like they're not incentivized to do that when it is free, like you said, Gabe.
Yeah, and I just feel like it just gives it, you know, one of my best buddies, Tristan, we actually went through all the Halo games together on Game Club. He's talked about this like lots of times where now developers have an excuse to not finish a game.
Right.
And he's 100,000% right. And that's exactly what's happening with Halo right now is the game's not done. In a lot of areas it's not done. And I'm kind of mad that the game has been lauded as being the GOAT. Like whenever something comes out, right, and it's even remotely good. If all it had to be was remotely good, have Halo on it, and then it launched early. So like you have all this hype around it. And I feel like we all kind of had rose-colored glasses on, but now those faults are really, really starting to rear their head, and you know it's turning into Halo 5 all over again in a lot of aspects. I think I'm not saying that it's 100,000% like because of being free to play, but I definitely think it's a big part of what's happening for sure.
Yeah,
I think it's a problem in the games industry as a whole. Like I know I've heard like Zero Punctuation rail on it a bunch. It's like, oh, the game's not good enough. Don't worry, I'll just patch it later. I mean, that was the problem with Cyberpunk. They released a half-done game, and then don't worry, in 2 years we'll re-release it, and it'll be sort of close to what we originally said it was going to be. And I think that I agree with you guys. I think it's maybe exacerbated a little bit with it being free to play. It's like, oh, it's not a big deal. No one's actually paying for it, so the expectations are going to be lower, which I just don't think is true. But along those lines, Jake, you kind of mentioned it. So the game is live service, right? Which how would you define live service, Jake? I don't want to.
Yeah, no, I think, and Gabe, correct me if I'm wrong, but typically a live service game is, it's more of like a subscription type thing where the game is constantly evolving and it's changing and it's adding new things and it's updating. And I mean, sort of like the Fortnite model, right? Yeah. It's like, I mean, say whatever you want about Fortnite, but their development team pushes stuff out fast.
Oh yeah, daily, I think, right?
And so it feels like you're a member of this thing because it's constantly changing, and which can be a little bit overwhelming, but I feel like that's what live service is, right, Gabe?
Yeah, I would say, you know, the games as a service model is kind of what you're, you know, saying, like seasonal content, right? Like that kind of is like encompasses your life for that period of time, and you know there's usually free updates to said game. I think Rocket League was kind of the first one to kind of coin that genre of, you know, the games as a service, and it was like, whoa, the game changes, like whoa, this is weird, you know. And a lot of games have kind of adopted that model, and it's been really successful because it makes a lot of money. And
Right.
Wes, you actually touched on something that I had thought about actually today with Cyberpunk. You know, the scary thing with these live service games and these games as a service is Rocket League is a good example because the game's actually pretty sharp, you know, for the most part, and has been for a long time. But you think about a game like Cyberpunk. Well, Cyberpunk was clearly unfinished, got pushed out, and it still sold 14 million copies.
For
Yeah.
sure.
So the developer, they don't care. Like at that point, they made their
Yeah.
money. Like
Yeah.
the fact we're getting anything on that game is kind of crazy. So same thing with Halo. It's like all these skins that people are buying and all this stuff, you know, like it kind of sends a bad message to the developer in a way. It's like, oh, so I don't have to finish anything,
Yeah.
you know, and we can change it to this. It's like, no, Halo can become a live service game. It can become this, like, just you wait type thing, you know. So
Yeah.
I don't know, I just wanted to throw that in there.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think every other game that's come out that's kind of been that sort of half-baked thing has kind of skirted by. I think the only reason Cyberpunk there was backlash for was because like investors got mad and investors felt like they were being gypped out of what they had invested in.
Yeah.
Like the board of but like with this, I've heard no real grumblings of anything like that. So it's probably going to be kind of more of the same.
Yeah.
There's no real incentive from the people that are actually making the game. The people that are above them are the ones that are going to make them push them to do
Sure.
something higher. Because I mean, this might just be my opinion. I don't think a lot of game developers really care what the reception is of the game too much.
Yeah, I think like the founder of the company probably is,
Yeah.
you know, and like a small group of people that really, you know, I don't know. I wouldn't want to indict an entire group of people
Sure,
like that,
yeah.
but I would say, I mean, it's a great point from Gabe too. Is I just don't think people understand the power that they have as consumers.
Yeah.
Like I think, and I mean, whatever you believe about, you know, what you put your money towards and whether that, you know, is like a cycle and gets you back to stuff that you want to consume that's worth consuming. It's like the money is the thing that dictates all of that.
Yeah.
So like if your money's not going, if money as a whole is not going towards that game, people are going to shift off of that, you know?
Sure.
So
Well, Gabe, let me ask you, I mean, you've kind of alluded to it a little bit, but how do you feel like 343 is handling the live service aspects, and like what specifically works and what specifically do you feel like they've been dropping the ball on?
I think if you look at the general, you know, user experience, you know, even the UI, like
It's
within
terrible.
the game,
It's awful.
it's so sloppy. It's so sloppy. I mean, it puts Halo in a really bad light. Like when it came out week 1 early, I was like, oh, it's fine. You know, this is going to be fixed in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And it hasn't. It hasn't changed at all.
I mean, they haven't
as far
added
as
any new maps in 3 months.
nothing.
4 months.
And
Sorry,
I mean,
4 months, no new maps.
yeah.
And I mean, it's one of those things too where it's like, I get it. Look, here's the thing. People make games, like developers are making games, yes, for you, the consumer, but they are in the business of making money. And that's the name of the game with the games industry right now is, for the most part, is how much money can we make out of this whole thing? And
Well, probably
you know,
spending as little as possible.
Yeah.
literally. Yeah, and I think you just kind of touched on what I thought is, I don't think it's good at all. And I think the events could be the event, you know, the Tenrai event, the first event we had, that was fun. That was good fun, like using the skewer and all that other stuff. And
Yeah, I agree.
you know, there were specific things to grind for, and that's stuff that you do in Destiny too. Like, you know,
Right.
you need to get X and Y accolades times 1,000 or whatever. And
Yeah.
I love stuff like that, especially whenever the fluid gameplay of Halo Infinite, for the most part, has been generally pretty good, I think.
Yeah.
Aside from recently. But yeah, as far as like the whole seasonal experience, I just think they need to figure out what their vision is and execute that one vision instead of taking, you know, like 4 or 5 different hobnobs of different types of, you know, what do you call it? Models of live service games. Pick one. Like, pick one, have us get used to that, and then have us like get used to another layer if that's what you're gonna do. Like, don't throw so much at us and not really like explain anything. And I think honestly, having the storefront just so like in your face all the time,
right.
like that, we've been complaining about this since like, you know, the early 2010s of, wow, there's advertisements everywhere in this game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I feel like it would be less egregious. First of all, 343 needs to come out and just say that this game is still in beta. Like, because it is. And
Yeah.
it's frustrating that people are talking about it on Twitter and all these different social medias and talking about how it's the greatest thing ever when it's clearly not. And that's just kind of what, like, there's nothing about the experience that's good with multiplayer except the actual gameplay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not excited. I'm not excited to log in. I'm not excited to even like see what bounties I need to like get or anything. Like,
Right.
I'm just going in. It's like, yeah, I want to play some multiplayer. I guess I'll play Halo. Like,
Yeah.
you know, and even then, like the few matches I played over the past few nights, it's like, wow, you really haven't done any work to this game or added any new weapons. Where are the old, like, dude, don't even get, I have so many negative things to say.
Yeah, no,
I'm
I think-
gonna let someone else talk now.
No, it's
Go for it.
crazy
I'm sorry.
because what blows my mind is day one. I mean, you can ask my fiance. She was working over here, and I was like, and it was back before we had Starlink, so only one person can use the internet at the same time. And I was like, I'm watching this Xbox thing because rumors are going nuts. I mean, I remember me and you were texting Gabe, and I was like, rumors are going nuts. People think Halo's going to launch today. And I was like, Chelsea, get off the internet. I'm watching this. And
We watched it together, didn't we? Live?
No. I
We
was
watched
here.
something else
It was a
live?
Monday. Yeah.
Okay.
But we were like freaking out. They launched it. They said, Halo Infinite multiplayer is out now. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I ran upstairs, turned my Xbox on, popped it up. Woo! 3 or 4 hours later, however long it took to download. Day one, I could not believe how terrible the Battle Pass was. And I get the rose-colored glasses thing because that's probably true. But on that I remember I looked at it because the Battle Pass is not something that I will never buy. I bought one in Warzone.
Mm-hmm.
I bought one in Fortnite because the thing is, if there's enough value there, you can purchase it again for in-game currency later.
Sure.
So I've only bought each Battle Pass once.
Mm-hmm.
I've just saved my credits that I earn in the Battle Pass and buy it again. Day one, I'm looking through and I'm like, challenge swap?
Yeah. Like 500 of them.
XP grant? 50 XP? Okay, well, that might be a lot. It might not. And then it turns out it was not a lot. It turns out there's no earnable credits in-game. And it's like, oh, so I have to buy a $15 battle pass every time that a new season starts, which, hey, give 343 credit. There's only 2 seasons a year because they're 6 months long. Great. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Like, how the road was laid out for them. Every other game is successfully doing a live service free-to-play model, and you drop the ball this much when all you had to do, at the very least, was copy what someone else was doing.
Yeah.
Well, it feels so much more transparently greedy.
Yeah, you're right.
Well, and that's the thing too. Is like, sorry, I hope I didn't cut anyone off. There's
No, you're
you
good.
know how it is. It's one of those things too, where it's like you literally have one of the funnest battle pass like experiences ever in a game that you worked on, and it's called the Master Chief Collection.
That's true.
Like,
Yeah.
literally, just copy that. Like, that's a blast. And
Yeah.
it's like, you know, I want to echo what you said, Jake. Like, I remember seeing the battle pass and thinking like, my immediate thought was, Splitgate did this better. Like, it seemed so obvious to me that Splitgate at that point in time and right now is still the better game.
Yeah. And Gabe, check this
in
out.
terms of multiplayer.
This is what's crazy, and this is back to the whole financial discussion is day one, Luke bought the battle pass. Eons, like over the moon, bought the battle pass. Didn't even look at it, and this is the issue with consumers.
Sure.
He didn't even consider whether it was worth it. Bought it. Hasn't touched the game in 2 months at least. I mean, he doesn't play at all anymore.
Yeah.
So hey, he's sound enough mind to say this game sucks. I'm not playing it. But he bought the battle pass before even considering whether it was worth it. He just assumed everyone else's is worth it. This has to be worth it too, and it wasn't. And it's just like the studio 343 doesn't care because they got his money. And it's like day one.
Well, and their argument too is like, oh, but these passes, these battle passes, they never go away. Like, you can go through it whenever you want. And it's like, okay, well, shouldn't you be doing like, I don't know, 4 seasons a year instead of 2, like you said before?
Yeah.
I don't
And
know,
not
man.
only that, I mean,
yeah.
pricing it at $15 is. I mean, think about how many people you're bringing day one to Halo game that's free.
Yeah.
I mean, you're gonna bring in a lot of people immediately.
At least to check it out.
Fortnite didn't drop in at the top.
Yeah,
it
you're right.
grew. It's like you're bringing a Halo game to market. You already have this many million people coming to your game day one. You don't need to price it at $15, especially for something that's as unusable as that marketplace is, because Halo automatically doesn't set up for attachments and personality, and like that's not what Halo's about. People, it's more about a level playing field. That is what Halo is to me. It is more technical. It's more precise. It's like you've got to get these many headshots. There's less like customization, and I don't think it
that
really
guy has less recoil.
I don't think it really even fits with Halo in general.
Yeah.
And maybe if you split that to something else in the battle pass, I don't know what it would be, but I just don't think it works that well. Everything looks the same.
Well, here I have a quote from 343.
Gabe, what do you think about this?
The quote is, "Halo Infinite will last 10 years." End quote.
Yeah, I heard that quote a couple months ago, and what should be very exciting is I just don't care. That's the biggest thing, is this new Halo game is it's trying to be something that it's just not. And I would rather have 3 new Halo games than have one game that's mediocre that lasts 10 years. That sounds awful. And it's frustrating. It's just frustrating because there are elements of the game where it feels like classic Halo, right? It's like, oh, that was dope. Yeah. But there's also plenty of new. There's also plenty of room for it to grow. And that's the frustrating thing, is they're going to have to do something. It has to go beyond the multiplayer. Like, just focusing on multiplayer, because I know that's what I'm supposed to focus on. I hope they change some stuff, because that does not sound. It just doesn't sound fun, man. At all. I'd rather just play something. I'd rather play Master Chief Collection. Than Halo Infinite at this point in time. Like, if I'm gonna pop in a Halo game, it's not gonna be Infinite. I can promise you that.
Yeah.
I would have to.
I don't.
I do want to mention, like, I think, to me, the gameplay is some of the best. To me, it's far and above 4 and 5. The gameplay. It is so good, the gameplay wise. I think the minutia is definitely lacking, like we're talking about. I think it's worth mentioning, not to rag on the entire game, because to me, a game is about playing the game. And there's other things now that make it even better. And I agree, that's frustrating because it could be even better. Yeah. I just think the gameplay is as fun as Reach 2, the one. I think it's as good as the top of Halo. Yeah, I think gameplay wise.
Yeah, it's so if you are, Pate's right. I think most people agree that it feels good. And the integration of like the tactical sprint, with still feeling sort of like classic Halo pace-wise, I think everyone agrees that that's good. So if you're listening and you don't really know what we mean when we say that the game's terrible, but the gameplay's good, the game is terrible because in its current state, and this is all the bugs that people are dealing with right now, you've got major desync issues, which is where you're uploading your data does not even sync with their servers. And so I watched this clip on Reddit. Literally, this guy 5-bursted this guy with a BR from 10 feet. None of them registered. His ping was 30 milliseconds. So it's not a connection issue. It is an absolutely on their end. Their servers are not syncing with their players' servers. So that is extremely frustrating, especially when you're like, someone like Luke, where he's like, dude, I killed this guy. And I'm like, no, you didn't. Well, actually, you should have. Yeah. Yes. The ranking system is absolutely convoluted. Your ranked arena gameplay is absolutely affected by your casual matchmaking.
Oh, just doing quick play?
So if you tank and quick play 5 times in a row and then switch over to ranked, you'll get a bot lobby. and you'll be able to rank up so fast because they are working together in the background, which is insane. That is completely stupid. As I mentioned, no new maps in 4 months. And the battle pass is absolutely not worth it. And the problem is, it feels like as a consumer, they're more concerned with putting new skins out to make money than fixing all these issues when the gameplay is amazing.
Right. Yeah.
And it's like, what are
buried,
we doing here?
The game, that gem is buried by a lot of sand.
It reminds me of what is happening with the Avengers too, because what happens is they release like a new skin and all these people buy it, like millions of dollars on one skin, and it blows my mind. A $20 skin, and it blows my mind. And you're exactly right, Jake. Like, that's exactly what 343 is doing. Is like they're trying to make money off of this game and focusing. Like, I can't even launch the game on my PC half the time, and I have a decent I have like a good PC, and the game doesn't even work.
Wow.
And it's just like how is the basic fundamental of making sure my freaking game can launch?
Yeah,
it's basically
like, how does that
on previous consoles too?
Yeah, it's like, how does that just go over your head? I just don't understand. It just blows my mind.
Yeah.
Well, to wrap up with you here, Gabe, do you have any like kind of parting thoughts about it, and then any like comments you want to share briefly about the campaign at all?
Yeah, sure. So
great.
I think yeah, I hope you guys are ready to buckle up for the next 30 minutes. No, just kidding. I think the campaign is incredible.
Yes. I'm glad you said that.
You know, to start, you know, that's all there is to say without, there's so much nuance I could go into, but it's great. My final thoughts about multiplayer is just fix it. Just literally make the game fun again. Like, put as much effort into it like you're about to try and launch it again, like relaunch it. Like, don't just rest on your laurels. Like, literally put effort into the game and freaking fix it. Yeah. Because like, it's not people. What is going to happen? People will stop playing it.
I already have.
People will stop playing it. Yeah. I mean, it's going to be Halo 5 all over again, and I don't want that to happen, because this game is objectively the best game we've gotten since 3 and Reach. Like, there's not even a question.
Right.
And it has so much potential. So, like, please just fix it. I want to be excited about Halo again. New Halo. I want to be excited for new Halo.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, you know,
and
to
I
quote
think,
Forrest Gump.
No,
that's all I got to say about that.
To wrap that up for sure, it's like, anytime someone brings up an issue with these, like, I mean, I'm talking big streamers on Twitch and stuff. Any communication we've gotten from 343, and I just mean we as like a gaming community, they just try to justify all the issues. So they said, when people are crying out, desync is terrible, you need to fix this, they're like, well, actually, here's why desync exists, and here's why it's unavoidable. And it's like, Master Chief Collection doesn't have desync.
Like, games.
Right.
So that's what's also frustrating about it. Because I agree. I wish that it was better, and I hope that they fix all this stuff, because playing like on my birthday and stuff, like, that was really fun, and it feels like the game is in a worse state than it was then, which is crazy. But
that's exactly what I wanted to say is the game feels worse. It's like, when you launched it early, it's like, oh, now it shows, like, whatever you like, fix it and stop being so quiet about everything. Like, let us know what we can look forward to, because if you don't do that, no one cares right now. Nobody cares. Yeah. Everyone, like, no one cares about what Halo Infinite's doing, and we totally should. And it wouldn't be hard. All you got to do is literally tell us what's next.
My fiance,
you left a big.
My fiance was playing the other day, and she's like, I thought Starlink was supposed to be better, and I was like, what are you talking about? She's like, Halo is worse than it was before, and I was like, what do you mean? And then I was digging into, well, that can't be true, because I know that our internet is good now, and it's literally Halo. It's like, because I was like, Call of Duty's playing fine. And it's literally Halo, and it's crazy. Because, anyway.
Well, Gabe, thank you so much for coming on and ranting with us.
It was fun, man.
Hopefully it was cathartic for all of you guys.
Here, give us nugs, Gabe.
There you go.
Are you going to be on later?
All right, Team SWAT tonight.
But seriously, Gabe, thanks for being on. Thanks for talking with us.
Thank you guys very much. This was a lot of fun, and it was cathartic.
This
You
was
guys have a
cool
great
to
show.
talk to you, man.
This was Gabe from TheWannabeCritic. Check out his show.
Yes.
Check out his YouTube. Very, very hard worker. He's had some amazing guests. We talked about,
Us.
yeah. No, we talked about the game developer that you.
Darren Korb.
Yeah.
Right?
So,
Dude, that was a dream come true. Yeah,
anyway,
I'm
please
gonna
check
start
out
crying.
The Wannabe Critic. Great show. Gabe, thanks, man. We'll talk to you later.
Yeah, it was awesome.
All right. See you later, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, buddy.
All right. Well,
Great guy. Terrible show. Great guy. just kidding, Gabe. You know I'm just kidding.
We're just trying to start a war so we can get some following.
That's right.
yeah. So moving on, we're gonna kind of try and briefly discuss the campaign. Like I said,
Yeah.
I only played the first mission.
You paid $60 and played
No,
one
it was
mission?
free.
See, that's the thing is we can talk about that too. Is it wasn't $60 for everybody because with Ultimate you got it for free. I believe.
Oh, yeah. Whenever I went to play it, it was just
Because
available.
when
I
you
never
got
paid
your
anything.
Series X,
Uh-huh.
you got
Game
the
Pass
full
Ultimate?
package
Yeah.
for Ultimate for 2 years.
Uh-huh.
So that's what gives you, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's
Oh.
Game Pass games and there's Game Pass
Interesting.
Ultimate games. So there's like, yeah. It's a whole other thing.
Convoluted. Anyways,
Very cool.
like I said, I've only played the first mission or so.
Okay.
Oh, excuse me. And
Classic.
lots of
What is
carbonation
this,
in this.
2019?
I thought it was kind of cool as I started it, but again, I've never played a Halo campaign, so I don't feel like I have any context whatsoever.
Yeah.
I feel like somebody like you two who has experience with the campaign could comment better on how you feel about it. Generally, everything I've heard from you guys and then from Gabe here, that it's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
So what are your guys' feelings on the campaign?
You go first. You finished it. I'm not.
I did.
I'm not.
I think it's probably tied with Halo 2 for the best campaign.
Wow.
Wow,
think-
says the guy who's played none of them.
Yeah.
He says, wow, that's crazy.
I just know how highly you talk about Halo 2.
I think Halo 2 is probably the best game of all time.
It's amazing.
I would say
When he picked up the second gun at the demo, everyone was like, whoa, he's
Yeah.
got 2 guns.
I would say I think the thing that sets this one apart, obviously, for everybody that has played it and knows anything about it, is it's open world. So that's the main difference.
Yeah, everything's open world now.
It's open world. But I will say, I think they did I didn't think I could be surprised by an open world game again. I mean, it's just been done so many times. It's been, it's just the same formula in a different clothing, constantly. This one really felt like they made the story part of the reason they were doing the open world game. And the missions feel the most natural maybe of an open world game besides maybe Red Dead 2, I would say.
And they've never used the term open world.
Right.
So it probably is because of that, because it's like, well, you can go anywhere and do anything you want,
Yeah.
but it's really driven by
Definitely.
these story
It
missions,
feels-
which is cool.
Well, it's not the first time. Halo 1 was open world. There was an open world mission in Halo 1. It's like, it's not the first time they've done that kind of thing. It's just, it is done. And like you said, it is very much linear, but I think that's why it goes to such a high status for me, is because I can't really pinpoint what it is. I mean, it's open world, but it's like the story is all linear. So
Everything I've been reading about it, it's been the 2 open world games that have come out this past year or 2 have been Elden Ring and Halo Infinite, and both of them are like, these 2 are both doing something different in the open world realm, so that's everything I've been hearing about it.
very generally, though, it's just the most fun a Halo campaign has been, because you can literally like fly around the map. I mean, you can do the grapple gun, fly it onto a Banshee, and literally fly around the entire map, like the huge, and then just drop 300 feet on
Into
top
a main mission
on top
or
of a grunt,
yeah.
and like it's just the most unadulterated fun a Halo campaign has ever been. Halo 2's story is what drives it, and that's what makes it so great. But this one it has the actual gameplay of the campaign is amazing.
Yeah, I agree. I think the reason I didn't finish it is because it got a little bit repetitive. That'd be the only thing. But
Open worlds can tend to get that way.
It's really hard. It's like if you don't want to go do the main mission or you don't have time, right? I'm just going to run around for 15 minutes. I have 15 minutes. I'm just going to run around a little bit, which is the upside of like an open world style game. But then, this is the main mission. It could take 3 hours. It could take 30 minutes. Right. So I just got a little bit repetitive for me. And then, I was just like, well, I'm just going to play multiplayer, and now multiplayer sucks. So it's like, well, maybe I'll just go back to the campaign because it is starkly different than anything else Halo, in terms of Halo campaign has done. I think the story is really interesting. The idea that we don't know what this ring is or why it's here, and it seems different than the others. And there's some UNSC forces on the ring, but really no like presence that we can take it back. And so Chief's, like, well, I'm gonna freaking do it. So I think that the story is cool too.
You feel like you're taking over the ring.
Yes.
Way more like
as you go to separate little sects and like it's really cool. But I'd say the worst part of it, I think, is once you get the Spartan upgrades, it's like you have to. I don't think that the developers had ever done a RPG style Halo thing
like an
before.
upgrade system.
And the upgrade system is great, but then the implementation of those abilities is really, really convoluted. You push left on the D-pad.
The button mapping is the trouble.
Tap, initiate switching, and then you put left on the D-pad again if you want to go grapple hook. But then you push right on the D-pad if you want to go sensor. You put up. It's like
it's nearly impossible to do mid combat.
Yes, which is I think is my biggest issue.
Yeah.
Because it's like the thing about the grapple gun is like all you can use it to escape really fast, and you're like, boop, you shoot a sensor instead, and you're dying. You're like, crap. Oh.
Right. And if you've got an elite that's invisible, you have to shoot that
because then you can see him.
The radar thing.
Yeah.
But then you want to use your grapple gun again. It's like
So I think that was the most frustrating part about it because it was so fun and all the new equipment is really cool and I love the ability to upgrade them and like.
Right.
Okay, well, I'm obviously upgrading the grapple gun first. Like, that's awesome, And so it's like...
I mean, it would even be better if you had to pick your loadout at a kiosk, and that's the only thing you got to use. That would even be better.
Because then you at least know.
Yes.
I know no matter what, I'm shooting a threat sensor. So if I'm getting shot in the face and I'm trying to escape, I'm not going to go... boop, and shoot a threat sensor at a tree. Yeah.
I think the problem is everyone would just pick the grapple gun, probably.
More true.
So you probably wouldn't get the usability. But
yeah, I think the map is really cool, and I loved how it slowly feels like you're taking over. Yeah. You're actually doing something.
Yes.
Making a difference, I suppose would be the big, grander term. But yeah, I think that's...
Well, we kind of covered a lot of the topics on here with the exception of it's $60 if you don't have Game Pass Ultimate. It is $60 for just the campaign. How do you feel about that?
That's crazy to me.
It seems extortionate for just a campaign.
Yeah.
But other single-player campaign games are $60 new. But it just seems weird to intentionally release the multiplayer for free and then charge a full $60 for another half of the game because typically I don't know, maybe it's just semantics because like you pay $60, you still have the multiplayer, you might as well have paid just $60 for a regular game that has both, you know. It just seems convoluted because what you're actually paying for is half of the Halo Infinite release. You know what I mean?
I'll say it feels different to me because for two things. One, yes, those $60 single player only games it's a thing. Most of them aren't like an 8-hour playtime. Like Red Dead is 100. I mean,
it's 120. I think is what I ended up playing.
I think that's a big difference.
Yeah.
Another big difference is the $60 price point is just set, so it's like that's what it has to be.
Is 8 hours the playtime of Halo Infinite?
I think that's if you just did campaign. Because
wow, that's way shorter than I thought it would have been with
I guess I should
open world.
No, I think that sounds accurate to me. It's just
But I'll tell you, hold on. The main issue I think is because since it's not technically, and this might be why they use the term, it's not technically open world. You don't know when you're going to the last mission, and when you complete the last mission, you can't go back and just run around Zeta Halo.
Yeah.
The game is over.
Right.
And so you can't, then it's done. You have to start it over again with none of your upgrades, none of your abilities. So I think that's probably why they didn't use the term, because it does end.
It's technically not open world.
Right, because of that, I think. But
because most open world games have an end, a lot of times they have a post.
8 to 12 hours to play through the campaign.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's way shorter than I would have expected.
So anyway,
and that model has kind of gone away of like the BioShock Infinite model, where BioShock Infinite's probably about that long, if not maybe a little bit shorter, or BioShock 1 even is probably even shorter than that. Did I say? Anyways, but that was $60 at the time.
Turnaround.
Touchdown turnaround. But that was $60 at the time for just that.
That was probably 50.
Was it?
They used to be 50.
As far back as I can remember, it was either 50 or 60. But
Yeah.
50 is still a lot. You know, I mean, it's a $10 difference.
I might be splitting hairs. I think the thing about this campaign, though, is I think those smaller missions, to me, they are part of the main story. Yes, there's main missions like Assassin's Creed, like, you know, the main open world games that are huge. You've got main missions. But to me, it just really pushed home that those were, I don't know, it just felt like they
added to it.
They added to the main story.
Yeah.
And maybe that's only going to get you 5 or 10 hours extra of like a main story feel, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I agree. I think
I will say I found myself doing more exploring than I've probably ever done in an open world game.
really,
Because of that.
Yeah.
I'm a main mission. Let me just go do this, and then this thing over here I'll do eventually.
right.
But
Or
so I will
proximity,
say,
if you're next to it, you might do it.
But I will
Yep.
say I've been doing a lot more exploring than I probably ever have. Probably because it does feel like it actually matters.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Right.
Well, kind of to bring us to a conclusion here, how do we feel about the lifespan of the game? We talked about it a little bit with Gabe, but do you guys feel like do you feel like they still have a chance to redeem themselves and improve it? Or do you think it's kind of a lost cause? Specifically, I guess, with the multiplayer.
Yeah, unless they do, because, I mean, back in the day, expansions for campaign was a thing. So unless
You
they
had to
do
pay for those individual expansions.
unless they do campaign expansions, I don't see myself replaying the campaign. But in terms of multiplayer, I would say,
Now, is that because with an RPG, usually the appeal of going back in is like doing something different with your character? Are the RPG elements light enough that that's not
It's
going to be
pretty light.
different?
yeah, for
It's
sure.
very light.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Master Chief, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I just meant in terms of what the upgrades are.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's not a wide
It's one of
variety.
6.
Eventually,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
eventually you'll just have them all probably leveled up. Yeah. So I'd say in terms of the multiplayer, that's really, really tough because we've hammered it home pretty much, but there's almost no incentive to play right now. Few things can be more frustrating than feeling like you completely outplayed someone, and then the game, for whatever reason, is just like,
Nah.
no, you didn't. You know, and it's like, man, that's really frustrating as a player. It's really frustrating as a teammate. It's really frustrating as a
it's the same
consumer.
principle as cheaters running rampant in other games.
Yeah.
It's like,
And they have cheating problem in this too.
yeah,
so.
what's the point of playing if, you know, it's not, if those people aren't literally playing a video game, they're just, you know.
Yeah. It's out of your control almost, which is just, that feels, it quickly can get apathetic if it's.
There's nothing more frustrating in Warzone than being halfway across a map and getting shot from nowhere
Yeah.
because of a cheater.
Yeah.
So
I
It's the entire point.
I feel like that's a good way to put it that Gabe said. They'll have to almost relaunch the game. Admit that this has been a beta experience and say season 2 is when the game launches or something. To retain their player base for a long time, I think. I mean, even I've been reading Twitch viewership is a good gauge on popularity of a game, and the Master Chief Collection almost has as many viewers as Halo Infinite. A brand new flagship title.
By the way, the Master Chief Collection is literally all the previous Halo
Yeah.
games collected for the new console.
So it's
Yeah.
like that's how people would rather play that,
With
which is
some
crazy.
remasters.
Yeah. What do you think?
What about how long is it gonna last?
10 years.
Gosh, it depends. I mean, the game's gonna be in existence longer than that, but it's like, how long will people be into it is the question, and that's really hard to gauge. I mean,
It already feels like it's waning.
I could only speak for our friend group because that's where, that's our community of like people that play games. That's the only barometer that I would know to go off of. I would say it's already, we haven't played in multiple, like a month probably, maybe longer than that, as like a group of more than 2 or 3. So I would say, I don't know. I would say it's dead now already. And will it be revitalized is the question.
Yeah.
And would you I feel like the general consensus is you guys would definitely recommend the campaign.
Yeah, definitely.
Not for $60, I probably wouldn't.
Okay. But if you have Ultimate and it's free.
Oh, you should definitely play it. Yeah,
Okay.
for sure.
And
Which
then
technically not free. We're paying for Ultimate, obviously.
I guess that's
But
true.
still.
But it's already been paid for
Right.
with our
And
Xboxes.
if you're married, you know what I'm saying. Are you married?
Xbox
If you're married,
It's definitely worth it.
yeah.
And
She
then
can speak on that.
Yeah.
the campaign, or sorry, the multiplayer, the general feel seems to be
Do not recommend.
do not recommend, which is unfortunate because the gameplay itself was good.
And that's what I said. Is if I played yesterday and a little bit this weekend, and if it feels worse than it was, which is
Yeah, see, I haven't played in probably. We played a little bit of a session, I think like 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, maybe. So I haven't played in that long. So I'm only going off of that. I would say, man,
it's free. I guess I'd recommend
the
it. If
gameplay
it's free.
is so good that I think I have to recommend at least sticking with it and trying to. I haven't seen the new issues, so maybe they're bad enough to where I wouldn't play. But I would say the gameplay is so good that I think it's worth sticking with and playing.
And it's free.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for listening. Thank you to Gabe from TheWannabeCritic for being on the episode. And this has been This Podcast Is Not For You. My name is Wes.
My name is Jake.
And my name is Rooftop Debacle.
We'll see you later.